This week on the Jock and Nerd podcast, Gerald Morris joins us to break down the 2025 Academy Awards nominations. Plus, Doctor Strange absent in the next Avengers movie, the new Superman is flying and the internet can't handle it, this year's Razzies nominations, and more, all in this edition of the Jock and Nerd Weekly for Monday, January 27th, 2025.
You know who this is, and you know why you're here. You want all the latest comic book and superhero TV and movie news, and by God, you found it. Forget everything else out there. Forget all the Scientology bullshit. This is the real deal. This is the real deal. Worship at the feet of the holy trio of geekdom, the Jock and Nerd podcast. Play it.
Check. Check one. All right. This is for all you fans out there. Let's give it up.
We heard it. We funny, disturb it. We chop it, we nerd it. We spoiler alert. Oh yeah!
What's up, listener? How's it going? Thank you for pressing play, and welcome to the Jock and Nerd podcast, where we give you comic book and superhero TV and movie news, reviews, and whatever we choose. Jock and Nerd. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the Jock.
He's the nerd.
No Rug Boy this week. I didn't have I didn't have to come up with a pun.
Lame.
But we do have a very, very special guest joining us, friend of the show, our podcast buddy, creator and host of the Two Peas on a Pod podcast and YouTube channel. It's Gerald Morris. G Money, what's up?
G Money.
Yeah, it is. Fellas, I'm such a dear friend of Jock and Nerd that I come on every 2.5 years.
Yes, the planets have aligned. We were just talking about Gerald Morris, last heard on this podcast, episode 470, the sci-fi movie draft that was published January of 2023. Oh shit! And I'm an asshole. I gotta apologize for not having you on.
This seems to be a theme with you, Imran.
I know. I forget about people, and then I was like, what happened to this guy? Oh, shit, I got to hit him up.
I need him for something.
Only when I need him for something. And we need you, Gerald, this year to help us break down these Oscar nominations. Anthony, remember that one year you were all into the Oscar movies?
Yeah, that was... he definitely remembers it because we did I think we did a couple shows together. But
we did like a Patreon series together, man. You were my guy.
You guys were
I was super into it. That was COVID 2020, 2021. I didn't have anything to do. I said I'm going to watch movies and get really into movies, and that was my Anthony Polanski era. And that was a fun time. I mean it. Time. I just don't have the time.
I knew it wasn't going to last. I was like, get the fuck out of here. You're watching all these movies.
I enjoyed, but that was a great time. I enjoyed all those movies. Well, Mank I didn't enjoy, but everything else I had a good time watching. I thought, this is the new me. I'm going to be going to the movie theaters and following the Oscars, and every year I'm going to be on top of it, and it just kind of petered out. But
yeah. That was the year Nomadland, right? And I think
Nomadland.
That was Chloe's out.
Yeah.
In retrospect, let me ask you this, Gerald Morris, because you're also a historian. Mm-hmm. I just bestowed the historian title on you. Was 2021, 2020, was that a weak year for the Oscars? Looking back now, was that that I feel like that wasn't a year that a lot of people were really into it.
I mean, kinda. I'm looking at the 10 that got nominated that year right now, though, and I mean, aside from Mank, which this year there's one of those too that just does not belong. Yeah. But aside from Mank, it was a pretty good group. Like we had Promising Young Woman that year, Sound of Metal, which was great, Judas and the Black Messiah. I mean, it was a good year.
When you look at just like, it was like, I guess it was an okay year in terms of movies, but when you look at buzz, I mean, that was the bottom. I mean, that
it
I'm
was
looking at the ratings now. It was 10.4. The year before was 23.6. The year after was back in the 16s, and it just went up from there. So that was a bad year.
This was that really strange award show too, like the televised award show, because it was like during COVID and everybody had masks on, and there was only like 50 people there. And
do you remember too they normally do Best Picture to end, but they thought we're going to do Best Actor to end because it'll be
and the dude wasn't there.
And no, well, he definitely wasn't there because he was dead, Imran. But yeah, Anthony Hopkins won, and he was not there. So it ends on this like, what the hell?
Yeah, why did we
do this?
Didn't they have people in hazmat suits delivering the trophy to the winners at home or something weird?
There was a lot of crazy shit going on. I remember that being probably the worst televised Oscars. I mean, I can't remember a worse watch.
That was the last time we had you on to break down the Oscar nominations was after COVID. So anytime there's a big thing that happens, this time it's similar. We had the strike year and now kind of a weird set of movies. So anything there's a large disruption, Gerald Morris will be on the following year.
Right.
I mean, sure. I'll tell you how into it I was, and Gerald we both might remember, but I was watching the SAGs, the directors, the PGA, the DGA. I was watching the Critics' Choice. I was watching the Golden Globes, all those things, whatever the hell. And I was putting them all on spreadsheets and be like, okay, what are the ones that have like common won? And if they're winning this, it has to be this. The BAFTAs. I was watching people's reactions to the nominees for the BAFTAs. Like, it was just a weird time for me.
I don't know. I feel like you're attacking me right now. I do that every day. But is this not normal? Like what you're talking about?
It's equivalent to being a sports fan, right? For movie fans, this is their big sports playoff season.
Yeah.
And you can do all these things. So we are going to have you break down this year's nominations. But first,
got
a couple of new stories.
Commercial break
to discuss.
No.
Let's get started, you fucker. The Jock and Nerd Podcast. All right,
roll the credits.
We're gonna start with peep you next time. No, we're gonna start with this as we are all we're big MCU fans. No secret there. We're all
what's up, Rug Boy, which is why he's not here today.
And maybe Gerald. We're gonna find out in a second. But we are highly anticipating the next Avengers movies, right? Avengers 5 and 6, and already it's been a crazy storyline for Avengers 5. It was originally going to be the Kang Dynasty. And old Jonathan Majors things happened, and he gets fired, and then they're pivoting. And the pivot is Avengers Doomsday, bringing back Robert Downey Jr., not as Tony Stark, as Dr. Doom. And with all this change, there's going to be some casualties. Apparently, Doctor Strange is going to be one of our casualties, as Benedict Cumberbatch has revealed in a recent interview to Variety that he will not be in Avengers Doomsday.
Oh, shit.
He said, quote, "Is that a spoiler? Fuck it."
Spoiler alert.
He tells Variety that the plans changed, obviously, after Majors got fired, and they're pivoting away from King. Quote, saying the character not aligning with this part of the story. He does go on to say he will be in Avengers Secret Wars, a lot of Avengers Secret Wars, and also confirm that Doctor Strange 3 is officially in the works. I believe Sam Raimi is coming back to do the next Doctor Strange movie. Now, when we last saw Doctor Strange, he got a third eye, and then Charlize Theron shows up and rips a hole in the universe, and they fuck off inside this little rift. I'm not sure what he's doing, but Anthony, let's start with you. Is it weird that possibly like a veteran Avenger is not going to be in the next Avengers movie, or is it that maybe a good thing?
No, I think it might be a good thing. You know, you're bringing back Tony Stark. You don't need to bring. It sounds like Chris Evans is going to be back, or you're bringing back, Robert Downey Jr. not as Tony Stark, but as Dr. Doom. So I don't know if that you need to bring everyone back. Bring back some, pepper in some of the new stuff. I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. Doctor Strange is, he can pop in and out of stuff, and he's got his own movie to worry about. He's got his own things.
I mean, it does show a little bit of restraint, right? Because I have no doubt that in Secret Wars, every motherfucking character that has a name in the MCU will be in that movie.
Yeah.
All of the Spider-Man, all of the variants, all the everybody, right? So you want to build up to that. And if the story changed, the story changed. Gerald, how are you on the MCU these days?
Man, that is a loaded question. I don't know that I want to answer on the Jock and Nerd podcast, but I'll get to that. But can I ask you two something? And this is honestly just because I need this explained to me. Why? So the RDJ thing coming back as Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, why is he
unknown?
How does that connect to Tony Stark or whatever?
We don't know yet. There's a lot of theories on the internet. The one that seems to be the most popular, or the one that makes the most sense, is it's an alternate universe Tony Stark that is actually Dr. Doom.
Right. Sure. That's kind of what I was thinking they were going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so
could be another guy. It could be him just playing another guy. We'll see.
So to put it lightly, I've been out on the MCU since like 2019.
Sure. Arguably their peak.
I was on board really up until Endgame. I mean, sure. I'm even a fanboy and a defender of Captain Marvel. I thought that was a good movie. It started to get a little much and kind of became homework a little bit.
Sure.
Past that Infinity Saga. And then I was just mentioning RDJ, but I know you guys were talking about Chris Evans and like, all these characters that I was connected to in like the 80s when I was reading the comics had these really emotional kind of send-offs that were like, great, like, a beacon of light rising up to the clouds, like great cinematic character translation of a comic book hero or whatever. And then it's like 5 years later, you know what? We're kidding. We're going to bring them all back. It's just weird. I don't know how I just don't carry the same emotional attachment to these films anymore. And that can be said for DC too. I just remember a time, and Imran, I think you and I have talked about this before, but I remember a time when I was a kid, 80s, 90s, you got a superhero movie, you went to see it, you loved it, you stood in line, and then you didn't get another one for like 2 or 3 years if you were lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just an event, and it was something that you were able to kind of, let sink into you and take you over and enjoy it until the next one came along, And it's just now, it's like every time you turn around, whether it's a TV show or a movie, there's something going on that if you don't watch it, you're not going to know what's happening the next time you go see something. So I've fallen off. I mean, there's some that I will always be seated for. Like I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm a huge X-Men fan. So anytime Wolverine shows up, I'm going to be there. But do you guys get what I'm saying? It just has kind of become a encyclopedia study session at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem with we've discussed this a lot on this show, but one of many problems after 2019 was the fact that the MCU didn't realize there is such thing as too much of a good thing, and they overloaded everyone with everything, with TV and movies and all that stuff, and we're propping up characters and stories that weren't ready to be propped up. So yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. I think there's a lot of fans, a lot of very casual fans that are like, oh, the MCU, they're still doing stuff.
Well, so that's what's interesting, because Infinity War Endgame made billions of dollars. What do they have to do to get this momentum going to reach? Can they even reach that same level of excitement with Avengers 5 and 6?
I mean, you guys are better to answer something like that than me, but I would say as a general or a casual fan of superhero films is that I think as a society, we need a break. Like, I'm not trying to be funny, but like, imagine if they took like even 2 or 3 years where there was like nothing. Yeah. And then they bring this project forward, like kind of out of nowhere to reintroduce, whatever characters they choose to reintroduce. And I feel like then it would turn into kind of an event again. Whereas now it's almost like a chore, like, oh God, I have to see this because the new TV show comes out in a month. I got to see this to see what's in that, And I just feel like kind of like what Tony was hinting at is that they have not taken the foot off the gas pedal. They just keep moving forward with whatever's, next, and whatever town is next. They just keep driving to it. And I know Superman's coming out this year from James Gunn. Yeah. And I'm actually really excited for that one, which I didn't think I would be, but I am based on what I've seen so far. But I just feel like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's so much of this superhero IP in the zeitgeist right now that unless you have a favorite character or a favorite hero to like hone in on, there's just so much noise around you that it's hard to really enjoy. And that's just obviously my opinion, but that's kind of where I am. It's just like, take a break for a little while.
It's exhausting. I mean, I'm still that guy that I have to watch everything. I still enjoy doing the homework, and I'm going to be a completist, even if it's good or not, but man, I'm fully expecting everyone to be in Secret Wars. So I'm looking forward to that, but this pivot, and I don't know where the script is at with this, and them bringing like RDJ and Chris Evans back, is it desperate, or are they bringing back the heavy hitters, the money earners that they know will get people back? It kind of makes sense, but it's also a little desperate. But we got 3 Marvel movies this year, so them taking a break ain't happening this year.
I know.
Their break was this past year, which is one.
I thought that would alleviate some of the exhaustion, but then we had all these other bad superhero movies muddying everything up. So I don't think it helped much.
Because last year was just Deadpool Wolverine, right?
Or Marvel, yes. But then Sony had to go fuck up and put out those 3 movies, which all have a Marvel logo in the front of them. People don't know. And
Did you end up seeing any of those movies?
Again?
Venom 3.
We'll talk about
Venom 3.
Yeah.
Madam Web and
Kraven the Hunter.
Kraven. Did you watch any of those movies?
I saw Madam Web. I was going to go see Kraven the Hunter, and then I messed around and saw some reviews that were not good.
We're going to talk about those when we're going to get to this year's Razzies, because we got to talk about the worst before we get to the best. Sadly, though, that's where all the genre movies we reviewed this year were represented in fucking Razzie nominations. But anyways, Cumberbatch, he's sitting out. Whatever, they're going to figure out what they're going to do. Listener, let us know what you think about this. Join this conversation. Join our Facebook group. It's called Jock and Nerd. Oh, I pressed that early. It's a closed, exclusive group.
When you get to your age, it tends to come out pretty early.
It was a premature sound.
You can't control yourself at the age you're at.
It's true. Sometimes I press the button.
It's a wonder you're still even operating.
Oh my God.
It's a wonder you're still even operating at your age.
That sound bite is dribbling down my leg now. What's going on? Okay. Speaking of Superman, Gerald Morris.
Oh, okay.
You are excited for James Gunn's Superman?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of am. And based on the commentary I just gave you guys, you can probably see why I wasn't really. But it's funny because they released that. I'm sure you guys talked about it on the show, but they released that little 30-second, here's a trailer for the trailer that we have coming out, which, by the way, I fucking hate when they do that.
Yeah, that was annoying. It was, but none of those shots were in the trailer.
I know.
Weird.
So I saw that thing and I'm like, what the hell is this? It looks like a CW show at best. But then the actual trailer came out, I think the next day or a couple days later.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed that trailer. I did a reaction on my YouTube channel, and I really liked it. I mean, everything I saw kind of echoed a lot of the James Gunn stuff that I liked in the past from Guardians, etc. So, which as I said earlier, was a time in the MCU that I really did enjoy that stuff. So I was on board after seeing that trailer, and but also I'm a little biased too, because I'm also vocally, it's been said that I'm not a huge fan of the Zack Snyder era of Superman. I like Henry Cavill. I think he was, a good Superman, a good casting and stuff. And I like him as an actor, but Snyder's way of storytelling and just the way the narrative came across was just way too dark, in my opinion, for that character. And I just never connected to it because of that. It made a little more sense for Batman, for Batfleck.
Yeah.
But not so much for Superman. And I just never kind of got on board with that vision. Snyder's very hit or miss for me anyway. So some of his movies, I love them, and he'll put them in my top 10 of the year. And other ones, I'm I never want to see that again for as long as I live. So he's very hit or miss for me. And I just didn't really like his Superman stuff. But with that being said, I feel like this is kind of going back to a little bit where it is a little more reminiscent for me of the Christopher Reeve days, just from what I've seen so far. It's a little more peppy. It's a little more happy. It's a little more this is a guy saving the world, and, we're not all, gloom and doom or whatever. So it's a little more my speed, I think, at least based on what I've seen so far.
It's interesting. Yeah. Well, they just put out this little 30-second spot. It's mostly recycled footage from the trailer, but there's some new shots of Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor and a 3-second shot of Superman flying and spinning. And it ends with this point of view. You're staring at Superman as he's flying towards the camera. And of course, the internet is going to internet and are losing their minds over this 3-second clip. So a lot of the criticism has been it looks goofy. They have blamed CGI on the face. The eyes are weird. So, and James Gunn has come out and said on Twitter, which he's on social media a little too much for a guy that runs a studio. For my money, should probably cool it a little bit. But he said there is no CGI in the face of David Cornsweet in this shot. Now, watching this, his face looks a little weird. The eyes do look a little wide, but it's reminiscent of the flying we saw with Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, right? This is a stylized look at flying. He's got like a fisheye wide-angle lens. It's the exact same thing they did with Adam Warlock. Only nobody gave a shit about Adam Warlock, and there was no outrage. But this is Superman. Anthony, you did nothing look weird about this to you.
No, I watched the trailer and I didn't notice anything.
What did you think about just the whole spinning, flying? I mean, that part, I thought it was kind of cool, the little spinning, flying shot.
I had no opinion on it. I literally watched it and it glazed over, and
you were like,
that was it. I liked the trailer. Not this trailer, the original trailer. Yeah. I was pretty hyped about Superman. I watched this and said, "Oh, most of this I've seen." I honestly didn't even notice it.
Gerald, you seen the discourse about this? Did you notice his face does look a little weird, but it's the lens. It's just the lens he's using.
I will say one of the funniest things. By the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with this shot or this trailer. Like, I think it looks normal. I think it basically looks like Superman. It looks like David Cornsweet as Superman. I mean, that's what we're getting. That's what it's going to look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one of the funniest things I did see yesterday with all the viral kind of quote unquote backlash, if you will, which is fucking ridiculous to begin with. But one of the funniest things I saw that made me chuckle was somebody did a split screen of that shot of him with Woody from Toy Story. They like look exactly the same, like they're when Woody's up close, you know. That was really funny to me. I think it's just the internet being stupid and like over analyzing stuff that they don't really need to overanalyze. And I mean, it looks like Superman. I mean, honestly, what looked worse for me personally is when I saw Cornsweet in the trailer that Tony's talking about, which I also liked.
Yeah.
But I saw Cornsweet as Clark Kent, and he had like the curly hair.
I hate that fucking fringe haircut.
Which I thought was weird too as a Superman fan. But
that is your current young man haircut, and I'm like,
that's that fringe on top, that lettuce, baby,
fucking lettuce. Get the fuck out of here!
I don't know.
Imran's only mad. Well, you know what? I'm going to hold my comment on Imran's hair
Everybody
because
knows why.
Well, Gerald Morris also might be follically challenged, maybe by choice or maybe not. I don't know. So I'm going to hold it because I actually like Gerald, so I'm going to keep my comment.
But he's smart and has removed it all, whereas
That's true.
I'm still
you're still hanging on.
Oh, yeah. And it's
like
not,
you're George Costanza.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Yeah.
That's all I got left. But
I have a lot of hats around the house, so I get it.
Again, the fringe haircut is smart when you have a secret identity. I'll give it that much because you look completely fucking different. Take the glasses off, push that hair back. The internet's just got to calm the fuck down. I mean, this is a standard flying pose that is used in comic books and everything. I just hope the suit fits better. But are you more excited for this than any of the Marvel movies coming out this year? We're getting Captain America, Thunderbolts, and what's the fucking third one?
Fantastic Four.
Oh, and Fantastic Four. Same month as Superman.
Yeah. I mean, Fantastic Four, I'm lightly excited for just because I did like that comic and I do like that group. And I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm hoping it's not like I'm excited and then, wow, this sucked. You know, I hope it's not one of those because that's happened to me before with these MCU stuff. But I would say I'm more excited for Superman than anything else I've heard being released.
Superman, most anticipated movie on a lot of lists too. From like,
it was in my top 10 too. I did that at the first week of January, and it was in my top 10 too.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was my number one. We did it also, and I think it was my number one. I was like, I need to see what this is. All right, let us move on to an Oscar darling, Christopher Nolan, guy who ran away with everything last year with Oppenheimer. Honestly, making for kind of a boring results show, right?
That's true.
You knew. Yeah. It was just like the Emmys this year. Every category Shogun was in. I was like, Shogun's winning. And they fucking swept that. So Nolan's next project, I'm sure I've read about this, Gerald. The Odyssey. Fucking crazy, ambitious Homer's The Odyssey. Homer Simpson's Odyssey. Joining this cast, this amazing cast of Zendaya, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Matt Damon, Charlize Theron, Lupita Nyong'o, Johnny Bernthal, old Punisher, just added to the Odyssey. Gerald, what are your thoughts on this? And the fact, what I want to know is who is playing the lead here? Who is playing Odysseus?
Yeah, I've actually wondered that too. I'm thinking based on age, I mean, it's probably got to be Pattinson or Holland, right? I would think.
So I heard initially Damon was probably the lead, but now I'm hearing Tom Holland is the lead. But would Christopher Nolan rest Tom Holland as a lead? He's a smart man. Tom Holland has not made a good movie outside of the Spider-Man movie. You're going to put him as the fucking lead? You give him is he trying to give him a chance? And I feel like he's a little young. I feel like this Odysseus would be a little bit older. It's already been through like the Trojan War and all this shit. He's trying to come back.
Well, I guess that's true. Yeah, that's true. Maybe Pattinson would make a little more sense.
Damon would seem too old unless he
can we get someone to summarize what Odyssey is? Because last time we did this with Rug Boy, he told us a completely different story that wasn't anything related to Odyssey.
Okay, I hear from this Deadline article, Odyssey tells the story of Odysseus, king of Ithaca, and his perilous journey home after the Trojan War, exploring themes of heroism, loyalty, cunning, and the struggle against divine will. The tale includes iconic stories like Odysseus' encounters with the Cyclops, Polyphemus, the Sirens, and the witch goddess Circe, culminating in a reunion with his wife Penelope, who apparently he also has to fight off like 100 suitors when he gets back home to Penelope. So whether it would make sense Anne Hathaway play Penelope,
sure,
maybe Matt Damon as Odysseus, or maybe there's also the character of Odysseus' son, which I think Tom Holland could fit that role. But what a fucking ambitious, crazy idea. What is this going to look like? What are you expecting from Nolan's Odyssey?
I mean, this is crazy, but I will tell you that when I saw this, and I'm like Tony, I'm not super familiar with the lore of the Odyssey. I mean, I know of it and its companionship with the Iliad, from taking English classes. I'm not going to date myself, but a long time ago.
Yeah.
But since then, I haven't revisited it. When I first heard this, I was like, oh, that's the story of the dude that comes home and fucks his mom and kills his dad or whatever.
No, that's Oedipus. That's Oedipus.
That's always what I think of, too.
Which is also something I would love to see Nolan do, by the way.
Oh, God.
But I meant make the movie, not actually kill his mother. I don't know, man. I mean, when I first read it, I thought cinema because it's Christopher Nolan. And look at that cast list. Yeah. I mean, who would have thought that when they first announced it, that Oppenheimer would be what it was? It's this biopic story, almost 3 hours about the dude that, created the atomic bomb. And you're going to turn that into a film. And he did. And it's all one of the most lauded films of the last decade. I mean, the guy is top 3 filmmakers at least right now.
Sure.
And if anybody's going to translate anything to the screen for not only those cinephiles, but also like general audiences, I think it's Nolan. I think he can do it. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. I'll be there day one to see this thing. I'm excited for it.
Anthony, are you excited for it? It's Nolan, and you're going to learn about the Odyssey, which I think will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that could be cool aspect too, for sure.
I mean, Nolan hasn't. I can't think of Nolan ever doing a period piece from that. From way back, the Romans, the Greeks, any sort of castle type shit. It's not his thing.
Yeah.
So Nolan for me is Nolan's a great director. I like his stuff. He's pretty hit or miss in terms of some of the stuff I enjoy. So, for example, I didn't like Tenet.
Yeah.
Same here.
I didn't really. I mean, I know it's a masterpiece, but I don't think I'm ever turning on Oppenheimer again. Like, I'm not watching that just for fun.
It's depressing, but
oh wow,
it's not even just. It's not really depressing. It's just a long biopic movie. I mean,
Yeah.
But then there's movies like The Dark Knight and Memento,
Inception,
like
Interstellar,
Inception. Yeah, those are great movies. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know what to make of Nolan. I just hope. And we've made this joke a million times, but I'm going to make it again. I just hope that he has some sort of leveling sound thing going on where he finally can level down the background music so that I can hear the dialogue between the characters. That's all I care about. I want to be able to hear the dialogue.
The worst. The worst.
Oh, it was the worst. Tenet was, I hated Tenet.
Yeah, he likes putting people in masks and then just muffling the sound, and
not only that, just cranking the sound up to 11, and then the audio on the background noise to 11, and then the actual dialogue at a 4.
I'm so curious which one of these guys is gonna be the lead and how he's gonna deal with this version of the story. But yeah, stack cast, and he's gonna deliver. Just turn up the audio. Just turn up the dialogue. Okay, last thing here, fellas, before we talk about the best of last year with the Oscar nominations, we, of course, have to talk about the worst of last year, as the Razzies, 45th Razzies nominations.
How into this do you get, Gerald?
Not very deep at all. I mean,
they have.
I actually haven't even seen these nominations, and Imran's going to be telling me to.
Here's the thing: they have fun categories, and again, like I said, a lot of the movies that we enjoyed, the genre of superhero shit, it's all right here. So, up for worst picture: Borderlands, Joker, Folie à Deux.
Okay, that's worthy.
Madam Web.
Yep.
Megalopolis, and this movie called Reagan, about Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting selection.
Have you seen any of those movies, Gerald?
I've seen Madam Web, we mentioned earlier, and I saw Joker.
You saw Joker?
That's the only two that I've seen.
Which one did you like more?
Honestly, I think Joker's a better made movie, but I probably enjoyed Madam Web more.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Joker is such a boring movie experience. Madam Web sucks and it's horribly made, but it's actually, because it's so bad, it's good kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's like they weren't trying to, be amazing. Whereas, I don't know what Todd Phillips. I mean, I know it has its defenders, but that was one of the biggest letdowns of the year for me was Folie à Deux because I the last act of Joker, the first one, that last act, I loved.
Right,
like the last 30 minutes when he literally becomes the Joker at the end of that movie. So I'm like, okay, part 2 is going to be basically that, where he's the Joker terrorizing, killing, doing whatever. And it was like a court drama. I don't know. It just didn't work for me.
Musical court drama where they deconstruct him to the point where at the end he's not the Joker. You're like, wait a minute, why?
Yo,
what is this?
This movie may be a masterpiece in like 20 years. People are going to watch this and be like,
which one?
The Joker.
Folie à Deux. Nah.
Madam Web is easily the comic book version of a Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like, you can have fun with that movie. You can have you can make drinking games. You could do the lines with them. Have a little sleepover.
Whoa,
Imran. Sweeney's in it, so
you should not be suggesting sleepovers at your age.
No, probably not. Never mind. Ixnay the sleepover. Up for worst actor: Jack Black from Dear Santa, Zachary Levi from Harold and Purple Crayon, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, Dennis Quaid for Reagan, and Jerry Seinfeld for Unfrosted. Unfrosted shows up a lot in this list. It wasn't a great movie, and it's just funny that it's in here.
Yeah, it was towards the bottom of. I saw like 150 movies last year, and it was like the bottom 2 or 3 for me. It was just
I thought
not good.
I thought it was silly and fun and like
Joaquin Phoenix being nominated as worst actors. I mean, he wasn't a bad actor.
That's not good. I was going to say I disagree with him being in this bunch. I mean, we're talking about how we didn't like the movie; it didn't work for us, but. I mean, that dude's a phenomenal actor, and it's not because of him or Gaga, frankly.
Yeah, and Gaga got nominated for Worst Actress, too, and it's not because of
Oh, God, yeah, that's not good. I mean, the movie, I get it, but those performances were, fine. I mean, they were at the top of their craft. I mean, they were fine.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump to director, because this is wild, right? Worst director nominated. S.J. Clarkson for Madam Web, Todd Phillips for Joker Folie à Deux.
That's fair.
Eli Roth for Borderlands, Jerry Seinfeld for Unfrosted, and Francis fucking Ford Coppola for Megalopolis. What the fuck? Francis Ford Coppola is on this list.
You didn't see Megalopolis, huh, Gerald?
No, that's another one I saw. I forgot that you mentioned that one. Yeah, I saw that one.
What
and
is that?
Tell you, as a fan of Coppola and a fan of cinema, that was a hard one to get through. It was like a 3-hour. It was like a 3-hour screensaver. I don't know what I mean, I know this is like his baby and he's been trying to have it made for like 20 years and like,
financed it himself.
Yeah, financed it himself. I mean, some of the performances were good, but it's just all over the place, man. It is one and another one was vastly disappointing for me. And it was, I definitely would say it's a Razzie worthy film just because it just missed so badly.
I need to see this movie. I just need to see what it is because I saw this unfolding and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It's one of those things that like 30 minutes in, you'll go, what? Like, where am I? Like, what are we doing? And those questions never get answered.
Oh, it's God, that's annoying.
It's just a lot of weird visual, components that don't make for a cohesive narrative. And that's the best way I can describe it.
So, Kraven the Hunter shows up in these as worst prequel, remake, worst screenplay. So it is in there. But this is all these movies. We had a weird, horrible batch of movies last year.
Was Kraven good? You guys think it was good?
No.
But it's on the same level as Madam Web, where you watch it and you go,
okay,
what happened? Who decided to greenlight all this?
They wore that trailer out, with the Johnny Cash tune or whatever.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I remember the first couple times I saw that, I was like, this looks badass. And I love Aaron Taylor Johnson and Russell Crowe doing some kind of weird accent is always a plus.
Yeah, it's a really bad Russian accent.
But I've heard it's just not good, which, again, whoever cut up the trailer did a good job because it was a good trailer. But I'm sorry to hear that it's not at least decent.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, you should. It has some decent action scenes and a lot of confusing shit. In fact, people have pointed out now, I think it's on VOD or it's going to be on streaming soon. People have pointed out there's a shot of Ariana DeBose and Russell Crowe, both Oscar winners in this movie, and they're fucking horrible. Ariana DeBose especially. But there's a shot in this movie where you can see it's apparently a still image of her, and they've composited a mouth to say completely different lines, and the eyes blink. But if you look closely, the mouth is floating, and she's not moving. And I watched this clip over and over again. I was like, holy shit, I didn't even notice this shit.
Wow.
There's that. There's also here's just to give you a taste of what this movie is. There's a line in the movie where I'm paraphrasing, but a lady says, "My grandma died, and then I never saw her again."
I never saw her again. Somebody wrote this. And
that's what happens.
And then somebody said it, and nobody edited it out or put a fucking CGI mouth over it to check. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Same with Madam Web, and the bad guys have a horrible dub over every time. You see the back of his head when he's talking.
That's fantastic.
Holy shit, it's hilarious. That movie is hilarious. I'm going to end with this. This is an interesting stat because on our recent Discord, we were talking about these Razzies, and Rugboy actually asked, has anyone won a Razzie and an Oscar in the same year? Guess what? It's happened 3 times.
Oh, shit.
In 1993, composer Alan Menken won a Razzie for writing the song High Times, Hard Times for Newsies. The next night, he wins an Oscar for writing A Whole New World for Aladdin.
Oh, wow.
Kind of wild. 1998, screenwriter Brian Helgeland wins a Razzie for co-writing The Postman. Then he wins the Oscar for writing the screenplay for LA Confidential. And then Sandra Bullock, 2010.
Highs and lows.
Yeah. Sandra Bullock in 2010 wins 2 Razzies for her role in All About Steve, including Worst Actress, Worst On-Screen Couple, and she wins the Oscar for Best Actress for The Blind Side. It's interesting that there are separate movies that they won and lost for.
That one's infamous, the Sandra Bullock one, because she went to the Razzies.
Oh, she pulled a Halle Berry and actually went there. And
she went to the ceremony. If that's the same year that I'm thinking about,
it had to be. She won
the year
2.
that she went, but I thought that was awesome.
She's like, I'm gonna pick up this Oscar. I'm gonna pick up these Razzies too. Fuck it. I mean, that Halle Berry showing up is probably the best Razzies appearance.
That was for Catwoman, right? Yeah, classic.
I was actually looking for if they won a Razzie and Oscar for the same movie, but no, not really. But the same person has won both the same with days apart, which is hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. What's y'all's take on the Razzies? I mean, as an Oscars guy, I don't really care, but I don't know. It's weird when you have, like we were talking about Joaquin Phoenix, like that just doesn't belong there. You know, like
I think the Razzies, I don't really follow it. I know Imran probably gets the kick out of it.
It's just funny.
I think it can be funny. I don't think it's meant to be. I mean, it's definitely not meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So you know, they're not really trying to get the worst of the worst. They're just trying to get the most buzz for crap movies.
Everybody's so sensitive too, like online too, because everybody's like asking me a couple years ago, like, why are you doing a worst of list? Like, let's lift up people that. I'm like, guys, I'm just kidding. I'm just telling you what I think. What movies sucked. So I don't have a problem with the Razzies personally. I don't like it when they incorporate performances or movies that were not consensusly, on Razzie level or whatever. Then it's like, remember that controversy from a few years ago when they nominated a kid? It was like a 12-year-old, and they like nominated him as it was like,
that's not fair.
That's a little much in my opinion because I could shatter that kid for decades. So I don't remember what movie it was, but I remember that was a controversy too.
Or you own it and you milk it and go with it, like Halle Berry. I just think it's funny. Like, I don't care who wins. I always think the nominations are funny.
Yeah.
Their categories are funny. They have like worst on-screen combo and a couple other fun categories, whatever.
In 2023, they nominated Ryan Kira Armstrong for her role in Firestarter.
Oh, the girl from Firestarter.
Yeah. And then it got so much of an uproar that the Razzies apologized and said they would have an age limit.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Because
he probably shouldn't nominate Kit.
Yeah. Even the Razzies, it's a joke. Yeah, it says here they win a $4.97 gold spray painted worst picture statuette is what the winner is. It's only just under $5. Perfect. Okay, let's take a quick break here, fellas. Should we
play some promos?
We're going to play some promos, and we're going to come back, and Gerald Morris is going to break down this year's Oscar nominations.
Oh, boy.
Right after this.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
What's up? This is Brian, and I'm the host of Citizens of Pawnee, a Parks and Recreation podcast. That's right, a podcast dedicated to my favorite TV show, Parks and Rec. Every week I discuss my favorite things about the show, which include character breakdowns, episode rewatches, and other random facts and tidbits about the show. You can find me on Instagram at Citizens of Pawnee Podcast and listen wherever you get your podcast now. You will literally love it.
I'm Imran.
And I'm Sophia.
I'm the brother.
And I'm the sister. And we are watching a show about cousins.
We're your hosts for Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast.
We grew up watching the 80s hit sitcom, and now we'd like you to join us every week as we rediscover our love for our favorite TV cousins, Balky and Larry.
You can find our show at danceofjoypod.com and on all major podcast platforms. Now we are so happy, Sophia. We do the Dance of Joy.
Imran, this is a podcast. They can't see us.
Oh, po.
Doc and Nerd.
Listener, if you like this show, there's never been a better time than right now to join our Patreon fan club. Visit jockandnerd.com/Patreon. Jock and Nerd. And you can give back on a monthly or annual basis, and you get exclusive things like access to a podcast feed where the shows come out early. There's bonus reactions. There's Jock Talk episodes. There's actual sports talk on there, believe it or not. Whenever we see a movie, we'll post the instant reaction on there. It's a lot of fun. You can join us for our monthly Discords. We just had one last week. It was lots of fun. The next one will be February 20th, 2025. And you can pick any movie you want for us to watch and review, get a t-shirt, other fun stuff, all at jockandnerd.com/Patreon. Check it out right now. All right, let's get into it. Academy Awards 2025 nominations. Listener, we're going to be talking about movies. So here's your spoiler alert for just every movie that's ever been made up until this point. Spoiler alert. There, we're covered. Just want to make sure.
Nailed it.
The nominations just came out last Thursday. Gerald, I'm sure you were awake bright and early, checking these out live.
Yep. I'm a sicko, man. You guys know this. Anthony actually did it with me a few years ago, as we were talking about, but I follow award season super closely. I start making predictions for this stuff like in August.
Nice.
So, I actually did pretty good this year with my early predictions. Quite a few of them actually ended up panning out.
Oh, nice.
But, all in all, it's a good group. I'm sure we'll get into some details, but yeah, I was up, man. I was ready. I did a live reaction, which is on my YouTube channel if anybody wants to check it out. And now we're just kind of predicting the winners and waiting to see what happens here on the other awards shows leading up to the Oscars.
So as Anthony, you mentioned earlier, when you followed the Screen Actors Guild Awards and the Directors Guild, all that, before we get to the nominees, any big storylines, narratives we should be aware of?
With the nominees?
Yes.
The main one that, depending on who you talk to, is going to either be praise or backlash. For me, it's backlash, but I'm not a hate. I'm the farthest thing from a hater. I will give anything a chance. But Emilia Perez is, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's essentially a Latino musical, a Spanish musical that centers around a drug lord who wants to transition to a female because that's their true self. And I could talk a little bit about, if you want, I can talk about why I just despise that movie.
Oh my God.
But I do recognize that the trans representation is important, and it's really cool that Carla Sofia Gasson, who is a trans woman, is the first out trans person to be nominated for an Academy Award. So I think that all that shit is great. But the movie itself, and you'll see a lot of this backlash online too, is honestly one of the worst movies to ever be nominated for Best Picture. But not only that, it got 13 nominations, which means it got
shit.
It's like the record is 14, which is Titanic.
Yeah.
But it's tied several movies that have gotten 13. It has more nominations than movies like The Godfather Part 2. I mean, it's just like we're cooked. I mean, it's just a crazy time that we're living in that movie got so much. That's probably the number one headline from nominations.
It's not that good of a movie in your opinion? Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's I gave it a 4 out of 10 when we reviewed it on my podcast.
Oh my God, that's not good at all.
It's got maybe 15 to 20 songs in the movie because it's a musical. I would say maybe 2 of them were what I would consider good. I mean, they were just not good numbers. A lot of them were like kind of like spoken dialogue over music. It had a very kind of like dark, ominous tone to it, especially for a musical. And it's a French director who has admitted that he doesn't really know a lot about Spanish culture, but he decided to make this Spanish movie about essentially Latino sisterhood, but he doesn't know anything about it, doesn't have any sisters of his own. Like, this is a weird, it's just a weird potpourri of kind of all this shit that kind of came together. And also I just wanted to say real quick, the trans representation in the movie, which while that is important, I have a lot of friends that are trans or in the LGBTQ community. And like, I just didn't like how they treated that character because, you know, obviously if you're coming out as trans, then you're saying, you know, I'm supposed to be this as opposed to this.
Right.
In the movie, they treat it more like the man that he's using the transition to female as a disguise to escape his criminal life. So it's an extremely problematic arc in that respect too. And I'm not the only one, but I'm just literally baffled by the number of nominations that movie received. That would probably be the number one storyline to take away from nominations morning in terms of like a film.
All right. I have a lot of questions, but I think we can save that when we talk about Best Picture.
Yes.
Sure.
And also, those 13 helped Netflix get the most nominations out of any studio.
Yeah.
60 nominations, followed by A24 with 14. Like, there's no big studios that have a ton of nominations. Universal has 13, and the rest is like Focus Features, Searchlight, Neon, Mubi. And then you get Warner Brothers. It's kind of crazy. So I will mention I caught up on a handful of these movies.
I'm interested to hear about this.
So
actually,
one of them was Emilia Perez.
Wait, but these movies. Before you say these movies, should you talk about which movies are these movies?
Or here, I'll give you the 10. Yeah, I'll give you the 10 for Best Picture this year. So
let's start with Best Picture.
It was Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, a little Brazilian film called I'm Still Here, which was a shocker, by the way, we can talk about. Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Those are the 10 nominees.
And then before Imran gets into his thoughts, we reviewed Dune Part 2 on the show, so I don't know that we need to recap that. But if you could give a 1-2 sentence, just a quick summary of all these Best Picture, because I'd imagine most of our audience does not watch a lot of these films.
Anora is one of my favorites of the year. That is Pretty Woman meets Uncut Gems.
Oh,
interesting. All right.
Okay.
I heard it's very good.
The Brutalist is a coming to America immigrant story of the American dream told through the eyes of a survivor of the Holocaust. Okay.
So far, you're doing really good at this. Keep going.
A Complete Unknown is pretty easy because that is a snapshot biopic of Bob Dylan in the early 1960s and his kind of rise to stardom in the folk music scene.
Sounds like a Oscar bait. Keep going.
Conclave is Gossip Girl in the Vatican.
Okay.
I really like that movie, but I can expand on that later. Dune Part 2 is a cinematic spectacle that Villeneuve turned into a palatable movie based on the book that was an acid trip.
Well, I love this.
Amelia Perez, we already talked about. Yeah. I'm Still Here is another true story biopic about the Brazilian dictatorship in the 1960s and a mother trying to hold her family together during that.
Oh, that sounds heavy.
Yeah.
Nickel Boys is a kind of a coming of age story that takes place kind of around the civil rights era in America, and it follows two young black boys who are subject to abuse and racism, etc.
Okay.
The Substance is a fucking crazy ass body horror, gross, just extravaganza of blood and guts that you will literally never forget. I can't believe it's nominated for Best Picture. We'll talk about that too.
You never get movies like that.
Yeah,
never. 5 years ago, they would not have even pretended like this existed. And we could talk a little bit about that, why that tide has changed too. And then Wicked is, I mean, that's an easy one too. That's just a film adaptation of the popular Broadway musical. It's basically a prequel to The Wizard of Oz.
Perfect. Now, you did great. That was actually awesome. That's better than me. Definitely better than Imran could ever do. Each of his summaries would be about a half hour.
That would have taken 4 hours.
So now that I've taken over, Imran, of these movies, which ones did you watch and what were your thoughts?
So I watched The Conclave, of course, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, The Substance. I didn't get to see Wicked yet, but I also watched A Real Pain, which is represented in some of the other ones. I'm surprised.
That was in the mix. Yeah, that was probably number 11 or 12, honestly. I was right there.
I was surprised that A Real Pain didn't show up here. But
me too.
Conclave, boy, picking a pope is hard work. Like, that's what this movie is, essentially. I'm surprised it doesn't have a nomination for cinematography, because I thought the cinematography was fucking excellent. It's beautiful shots.
Really was.
And it's just solid Pope drama. Right? Mm-hmm. The Pope dies, they got to pick a Pope. All these candidates, they got issues, secrets.
Solid Pope drama. As if that's a genre.
And you know what I really liked the finding out how they picked the Pope. This voting was like Squid Game and Survivor and shit. I was like, damn.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about that, Imran? I just talked about it. The video's not out yet because I just recorded my rankings of the Best Picture nominees. And I talked about on that video, what's interesting and funny about that, and I don't know if this was like an inside kind of like nudge from Edward Berger, the director, or the screenwriter even, but that mirrors the Academy's voting for Best Picture. That's how they do their voting.
Really? With the writing on the paper and putting it in the thing and the maybe
I
not
don't know
the
if they write it on the paper, but they do the ranked voting. And if you have to get over like 50% of first place to be not named Best Picture. And if you don't, they redistribute those votes.
Vote again.
And then they revote. So it's a very similar voting system to the Academy, which is why I thought this movie, up until nominations morning, I thought Conclave was honestly the biggest chance to upset Amelia Perez, because it's just so Academy-esque. Like, it's a very familiar thing that everybody that's voting on this would get. You know what I mean?
It's eight nominations it gets, so it's a lot.
It missed director though. Edward Berger didn't get nominated, which hurts it in the Best Picture race. It's a rare thing for a film to win Best Picture without a Best Director nomination. It doesn't happen very often. So I think that kind of took it off the table, honestly, unless it's like a surprise win.
Green Book? Was that a movie that won?
Green Book is one. Yes. Thanks for bringing up that memory. Jesus Christ. That was another one of the worst
that was
winners, by the way. But yeah, Green Book, Spotlight. I mean, it's definitely happened, but it's rare. It's not something that happens often. So,
all right, Conclave, you liked Imran. We talked about Dune Part 2, so I don't need to talk about that. Amelia Perez.
I don't even know what to think about this movie. This is a wild movie.
I shouldn't have told you what I thought. I didn't know this was one of the ones you watched.
I didn't know what I was getting into. And the fact that you said it's a French movie and it's entirely in Spanish is very bizarre. Zoe Saldana is fantastic.
She's great.
What's hilarious is Selena Gomez's Spanish is really rough in this fucking movie.
Not good.
Which I was surprised. But the story without the music is kind of an interesting... Like Mexican drug cartel wants to be a woman and start his life over. And again, some more spoilers to your point, Gerald. I thought the second half, at one point, Amelia Perez starts an NGO, a nonprofit, to find missing people in Mexico. A lot of the people possibly he has murdered in his past. Right. So I took that as he's trying to rewrite his history, make up for all the murder he's done by trying to save them. But I thought that the actress who got the nomination, she was phenomenal. Like, I bought that it's this person.
Yeah, the performances, particularly Saldana, she's definitely my favorite part of it. I mean, the only song that I really like in this movie is El Mal, which is probably going to win Best Original Song, and that's the one where she's doing the dance number on top of the tables at the awards banquet. Yeah, that's a really good one, and she's great in this movie, and honestly, she's probably going to be your supporting actress this year, unless Ariana Grande can make a climb from Wicked. But aside from those two main, really co-lead performances, it was just a jumbled story that
very wacky. Yeah.
Didn't lean into whatever it was trying to tell us. And I also, like I said, I thought it was super problematic from like a societal commentary perspective too, whether you're talking about the Latino representation or the trans representation. And
so it's divisive. It is probably the most divisive movie on this list. Anthony,
is it divisive or divisive?
Both. It's both.
Yes.
That's how bad it is. Yep. There's literally a song about having a sex change operation where they're singing about vaginoplasties and penoplasty. I was like, what the fuck?
Which, by the way, that went viral before I saw the movie. And I will tell you, that may have messed me up a little bit, too, because when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a comedy. Like, they're leaning into the slapsticky, off the wall, crazy shit.
And it is.
That's the only number that's like that in the whole movie. The rest of the movie is, not even close in tone to that number.
It really is all over the place.
It's just weird, man. It's just a strange watch.
What the hell was this? It's crazy.
All right. Here's the next question.
Yeah.
So, Gerald, our audience, more into the mainstream, although I'm sure there's people that have seen these movies, including Imran, that have watched a few of these. Let's remove Wicked and Dune because those are pretty mainstream.
Sure.
Which movie is the most palatable for the more casual observer?
I would say probably the obvious answer is probably A Complete Unknown, followed by Anora. A Complete Unknown, I actually really, really liked, but I'm also a stan of Timothée Chalamet. He's my favorite actor working today. I hope he wins the actor this year. I mean, he's just awesome in my opinion. But that's essentially a music biopic. So we've obviously had literally a million of those in the last 20 years. So they're super popular with the general public. People go out to see them, especially if they are familiar with whatever character is being portrayed in the movie. So if you are familiar with Bob Dylan or you like the 1960s American history in any way, A Complete Unknown is probably a pretty safe bet. I mean, there's great performances, great music. It's James Mangold who did Logan.
Yeah.
He directed Logan, which is one of my favorite films from superhero
Indiana
genre.
Jones dial it out.
Okay, all right. We didn't have to go there, but yes, he did do that too. He also did Walk the Line.
Walk the Line, Ford versus Ferrari.
With Johnny Cash.
Imran just can't let the guy have his moment.
No, listen.
Just gonna shit on him.
No, you're good.
He is interesting because he's dabbling in genre. He is going to be doing a Star Wars movie, and he's also going to be doing Swamp Thing for James Gunn. So he could do these Oscar movies, and then he's doing some genre movies.
It really can. And look, man, I'll tell you right now, and this will be, you guys can be my witness. A Complete Unknown is on the rise. It has the momentum. It is surging right now at the right time. Everybody's talking about it. Timmy is out there everywhere. He just did SNL this week.
I watched that, yes, and he sang. Dude. He was the first host actor to be a host and the musical guest, and he did some obscure Bob Dylan songs, and he was all right. Yep. It was all right. He was all right. Singing.
He is just carrying the flag for this movie, man. And he's, riding his bike to premieres and just doing all this crazy shit.
He got a ticket on his bike.
He's bringing his Beyblades to the premieres and playing with fans outside the theaters and stuff. I mean,
well, he showed up on college football and he's trying to be relatable. But you know what? I kind of like this dude. He's also the youngest, since James Dean, youngest actor to be nominated so many times.
Yeah, and what's funny, too? That narrative is there as well, because if he were to win lead actor this year, which I hope he does, but if he were to win, he would be beating Adrian Brody, who's really considered a lot of people's front runner. Yeah. And Adrian Brody actually holds the record for the youngest actor to ever win the Academy Award. He won for The Pianist about 20 years ago.
Excuse
me?
If
Timothy beats him...
How big was that pianist?
Wait, what? If Timothy beats him, then he'll be the youngest, and he'll take that record from the guy that holds it. which is kind of funny. So
he's got momentum. Let me ask you this thing about Complete Unknown. I really want to see this. I love musical biopics. I do kind of like Bob Dylan. But here's the one criticism I've heard of the movie. Do you learn anything about Bob Dylan?
No, but here's the thing. That's what I love about it. And a lot of people do give that criticism. But what this movie is that's why Mangold is, in my opinion, kind of rewriting the music biopic with this movie, because he did that with Walk the Line. He made this movie already, and it was about Johnny Cash.
Right.
So if he did a Complete Unknown with the same formula, if you will, that are put into most music biopics and that were put into Walk the Line, it's going to be the same movie. So what he did, and Johnny Cash is in this movie, by the way. There's a character, Boyd Holbrook, who plays Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And it's literally taking place. It's like in the same universe as Walk the Line. So what a Complete Unknown is, it's based on a book of telling the story of like a 4 or 5 year period in the early 1960s when Bob Dylan is struggling with being this icon of folk music and wanting to do more. He doesn't want to just sit there and play Blowin' in the Wind every night. He wants to kind of reinvent the genre. So he, his writing has a lot to do with that, but also he goes electric, right?
That's
he started using electric
That was a big moment. Even back then, people lost their mind.
And that's what the movie's about.
Okay.
The movie's not going to tell you about his connection to his parents or his childhood or like past loves or anything like that. It's just going to show you this one snapshot of this 4-year period that was frankly revolutionary in rock and roll and in folk music. And Bob Dylan was at the center of that. And I think if people, it's funny, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Imran, because you haven't seen it, but it's funny to me that people complain so much about that formulaic music biopic and how it all of them follow the same beats. But then you get a movie like this that doesn't, or a movie like Rocket Man a few years ago that really didn't do that, and they still find shit to complain about. It's like, you said you don't like it. I mean, you don't want to see his, when he was 5 years old or whatever, but you're pissed that you didn't get to see that. So I think it's great. I think it's a deviation from what we're used to, but it still feels familiar. And I think it's one of the better movies of the year. I really liked it.
I mean, I do like the idea that he just zeroed in on these few years and focused on that, right? That's great because it leaves it open for other biopics and other parts of their life.
But my daughter said the same thing. I took her to see a screening of this, a couple weeks before it came out. And she said the same thing when we came out of it. She said, well, I don't know anything that I didn't already know. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that's the way Mangold decided to approach it.
Did she dig the music? Did she get into the music?
She did.
Yeah,
she did. She actually added Bob Dylan songs to a lot of her playlist. And I think that's important too. Yes. And that's why I said it's really cool that Timothy's out there kind of pushing the movie and selling the gospel of Bob Dylan. Yeah. And, I mean, he's an icon, this dude won the Nobel Prize for songwriting. Nobody's ever done that. And he didn't show up to the
ceremony. Really? Dylan did? Holy shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, let's do this. Let's go over some of these acting categories. And I just want to hear from you.
No predictions yet? Or
no, we're going to do that. Who will win and who should win? These
that's good. Yeah, I like that.
All right. Well, let's do actress in the supporting role. Nominated, you have Monica Barbaro, Complete Unknown.
Yeah, I wanted to start with best sound.
No, we're not doing those.
Nolan's not in there for Tenet this year.
Best international foreign language shorts. Nobody's seen these. Monica Barbaro plays Joan Baez, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Complete Unknown. Ariana Grande for Wicked. Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. Isabella Rossellini for Conclave. And Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. Isabella Rossellini's in that movie for like 5 minutes, but she's really good.
I know, it's crazy.
She's really good.
She's a phenomenal legend, but it's just crazy to me that, she's barely in that thing. I think she has one scene that she actually has dialogue in, which is really impactful.
It's an important scene too, yes.
I'm not even joking when I tell you she's basically being nominated for one scene.
Yeah.
She really is.
Supporting. It happens all the time, It's like 5 minutes.
I know. Yeah.
So thoughts on this list, who will win, who should win?
Well, Monica Barbaro was a surprise. That was our first real kind of big surprise on nominations morning. I predicted it, so I'm waving that flag whenever I get a chance to. A lot of people thought Jamie Lee Curtis might sneak in here for a movie called The Last Showgirl, and actually, I had her in my predictions too, along with Barbaro, and Felicity Jones ended up taking what would have been Jamie Lee's spot in my predictions.
She won last year. She's good.
I know, it was 2 years ago, but she's already done her thing. For me, I think Zoe Saldana is going to win this. Okay. She just won the Globe and had a really emotional speech. And not only that, you guys know this on the Jock and Nerd podcast, but Saldana is like, every franchise she's in is like $1 billion. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avatar. I mean,
she's in all the top, the top $1 billion movies. I just watched Lioness on Paramount. She's amazing in that as like a CIA.
She's so good, man.
Person.
Yeah, she's so good, and she's just a blockbuster magnet too. On top of that, so. A lot of people could argue if you made up like a fantasy team of all the actors that you want to make $1 billion movie. I mean, how are you not going to draft Zoe Saldana to be in it? Because she just always does it.
Her track record's there.
I think she's probably going to win it. If I was casting a vote, and they rank these 1 to 5 when they vote. Okay. If I was voting, honestly, my number one in this category personally would probably be Ariana Grande. And
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, she's just.
Should she have been in leading role? Did she get cheated out of? I mean, aren't they like 2 co-leads?
Yeah. Let's be honest. It's a co-lead. It's Elphaba's movie, but that more so comes to light in the second half, which we haven't gotten yet.
Oh, okay.
But yes, they're essentially co-leads in this movie. I'll tell you guys this, and you guys know I follow the Oscars way too heavily every year, but she's the only person among any of the nominees or any of the ones that were in the conversation that, and this never happens, that when I walked out of seeing that movie, I walked out and I said, I'm going to put her in my predictions. And that was just based on the performance I'd seen, because nobody was predicting her in November.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I don't know if you guys know that. Nobody was predicting her prior to the movie coming out.
Interesting.
And I walked out and I said, that was absolutely just breathtaking. Like I would have never thought Ariana Grande is going to turn in what she turned in that movie. And it was funny. It was charming. It was very touching at the end of the film. And, she plays a bit of a hero and a villain in that portion of Wicked, and just does a great job, man. And she's so magnetic and alluring in that role. And Cynthia Erivo is great too. Of the two, I think Grande gave just an amazing, stellar, out of this world performance. I don't think she can beat Saldana this year, but if I was voting, that would be my vote.
Be the upset. I got to watch this movie because everything I've heard about it. I was gonna throw it on, but it's like a $20 rental, and the Substance was $6, and I was like, well, let's just do the Substance.
Yeah, you made the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, because that thing's gonna be on Peacock in like 2 days or whatever, right?
It's Universal, right? So yeah, that will be Peacock.
It's gonna be on Peacock any minute. I'm just waiting it out. But I'm dying to see that movie. All right, good. Let's do actor in a supporting role. Your nominations are Yura Borisov for Anora, Kieran Culkin for
He's my vote. That's my vote.
Real Pain. Not for Home Alone, not the brother.
No.
Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, who plays Pete Seeger. Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Mm-hmm. The Apprentice, interesting that it's in here, is that Donald Trump movie, Sebastian Stan playing Donald Trump. It's kind of wild. I saw A Real Pain. This is a great movie. While I'm watching it, I'm like, this fucking movie's great. Kieran Culkin.
I mean, he's also a lead, though. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, he's a lead, too. Kieran Culkin's a lead in that. I mean,
that's true.
Minimum,
it's him.
He's a co-lead.
Yeah, the movie. So the movie, written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, it's about these 2 cousins that are on a Holocaust tour in Poland, and then they're going to go to their grandmother's house because she just died. And you have these. He wrote 2 amazing characters, and Kieran Culkin kills it. This, I feel, is like one of the more relatable movies out of all these because they reminded me of people I knew. They remind me of myself in time, and like there's such layered 3D characters that everyone will relate to some part of these characters. So Kieran Culkin's like the off the wall guy. He's got no filter. He's got some darkness. He'll say whatever he wants. And then Jesse Eisenberg plays the more uptight, kind of buttoned up. He's got a family and kids and a job. And they both help each other. It's a beautiful movie. I love the dialogue. I'm rooting for Kieran Culkin to win this, but what do you got? Who will win? Who should win?
Well, you're in good shape. He's going to win. I mean, he's probably going to sweep the season. Honestly, nice. I don't think anybody can give him competition for the Oscar. I mean, honestly, ironically, the person that can probably give him the most competition is Edward Norton, which is frankly a performance that I wasn't like over the moon about.
Okay,
my vote would be for Guy Pearce in The Brutalist. You guys mentioned Memento earlier. I mean, Guy Pearce has been turning in sturdy work his whole fucking life. And this is, I mean, leaps and bounds above anything he's done. I mean, just such a layered, just brilliant performance. I mean, he plays so many different kind of like personalities with the same character over the course of many years in the film. And you kind of witness his growth. I mean, the film is a beast. I mean, it's a 3.5 hour epic, but his performance I actually prefer to Adrian Brody's, which might be an unpopular kind of like a hot take or whatever. But I think Guy Pearce is phenomenal in that film, even though I wasn't as high on the overall project as a lot of people are. I think that performance is a standout. But I think Kira Culkin's going to win it. I think you'll be happy, Imran.
He was great.
Honestly, I don't think he's going to lose all season.
Fucking Fuller. He's won many Emmys for Succession, and he's going to win an Oscar for Macaulay.
And also, the Succession boys are in this category together. You see that? Jeremy Strong.
They're both in the show. Yeah. And he is kind of a co-lead. I mean, both of those guys are co-leads. I wouldn't put any one of them as a lead, but he was fantastic. All right, let's move on to actress in a leading role. We have Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Mikey Madison for Honora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres. I'm Still Here. Demi Moore in The Substance is amazing. Anthony,
really good.
Anthony,
you watched The Substance?
I watched The Substance.
You didn't tell us about it.
No, I didn't. I'm going to say this. What this lady has essentially made in this movie is an amazing modern take on a monster movie with practical effects and dealing with a meta thing with Demi about aging actresses in Hollywood and the stereotypes. And it's wild. It's Kubrickian. There are shots that are straight up from like The Shining in this. It's a wild, wild movie. People, I know the last 15 minutes was divisive, but I loved it. It does. Next to A Royal Pain, like this movie stuck with me because I did not expect what happened to happen. But it's a monster movie.
It's a pop art bloodbath. I mean, this movie is like Tony. The best way I could describe it to you is like whatever you think the grossest like Cronenberg movie you've ever seen times it by 100. I mean, Coralie Farja, the director in this film. And credit to the actresses too, Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, who plays
was great. She was great.
She was really good too. I mean, they just go for it, man. And what I said on my YouTube channel when this came up is that we were reacting to the nominations. Is that what is so impressive, and what I think is going to be so impressive with the Academy too when they vote is that seeing The Substance, you can tell right away that nobody that went into that project that went onto the set to film those scenes. Nobody was thinking to themselves, let's win an Oscar.
Yeah.
Nobody thought in a million years that this movie would be in the Academy Awards discussion, let alone nominated for 5, including Best Picture. Like, I'm just telling you right now, Coralie, Demi Moore, the producers, like, nobody thought that. This is not an Oscar-friendly movie.
It's crazy.
It's frankly, honestly, groundbreaking that it got nominated, and I think that this is going to be a niche in the timeline, or at least I hope it will be, for genre films, including things like sci-fi and adventure, and of course horror going forward. Because we're talking about A Real Pain and all these other movies. I mean, these are all like quiet indie auteur films with like human story, which are great. I mean, I love a lot of them.
Yeah.
But because of that, we just don't get a lot of shit like this recognized.
Love it.
So I mean, it's not my favorite movie of the year, but I'm absolutely in love with the fact that it got as much notoriety as it did on Oscars.
I highly recommend everybody check this out. It's
crazy,
wild, fucking crazy movie. I watched a little behind the scenes with the director, and she had a vision and delivered exactly her vision, and everybody was on board. And the fact that she's using practical suits and sets is crazy. It's so good. It's very good.
And her debut film, by the way, is a movie called Revenge.
I kind of want to watch that.
Which is honestly just as fucking crazy. I mean, it's not as gross as The Substance because it's not really. I mean, there's some body horror elements in it, but it's more of a sci-fi kind of zombie movie almost. But it's awesome. I mean, it is so colorful, so poppy. And you've got to see it. I mean, you'll be like, when you see Revenge, you'll be able to trace that map back to The Substance, which is what's really cool about it too.
That's when I saw that other movie, I was like, oh, I got to watch this. It's going to be great. What a visionary director, right? But
for sure.
Great. So what do you got here? You got Demi Moore, who's later in her career, never won an Oscar. You have
Demi Moore's going to win.
You think Demi Moore's winning?
Yeah, you just said it. I mean, the narrative, and I'm not saying the performance is bad because obviously it's really, really good. she could win for that mirror scene alone. I mean,
that was great. Yeah.
Imran will know what I'm talking about, but there's this scene in the movie, Tony, where she's like getting ready for a date and she's already kind of feeling some kind of way about being replaced by this younger, actress or whatever. Yeah. And she's good. And so she's getting ready for this date and she doesn't like the way her makeup looks. So she's in front of the mirror trying to fix it. And it's like a 2 or 3 minute scene that just plays out in real time of her reacting to herself in the mirror. And it culminates with her just like violently kind of wiping the makeup off of her face and messing her hair up. And it's like, just put yourself in that spot, Demi Moore doing that. You know what I mean? Because the script probably said,
just freak out and mess up your makeup.
or whatever, So she kind of made that her own.
She is so, you see her vulnerability. You see Demi Moore, in her whole career, what she's gone through. But even in the suit, I thought she was really good when they put her in the suit.
She was. She goes for it,
so
man.
And think they're giving it to her because I know some of the other storyline is Fernanda Torres from I'll Still Be Here. Her mom won, right? And like 30 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. It's the same. No, her mom lost.
She lost it.
Gwyneth Paltrow for Shakespeare in Love, which is ironically considered one of the worst wins in Oscar history. And that's who her mom lost to. So there's a bit of a redemption there too. And that kind of storyline plays into it. And then I love Fernanda Torres. I mean, that was one of my favorite performances of the year, but I just think that she's going to have a tough hill to climb because this award season, she's not going to be on stage for any other shows because she's not nominated anywhere else.
Oh, interesting.
So I think Demi Moore is going to take a lot of that spotlight and her narrative is going to get her the win. If I was casting a vote, I would vote for Mikey Madison for Anora.
I've heard, I've also heard she's great in that movie.
Will absolutely blow you away. Yeah. I mean, I just keep telling myself this girl was 24 years old when they made this movie, and you watch it and you go, "What am I doing with my life?"
Wow.
I could never be as good as anything as she is at acting in that film. Just so good, and that's a movie, and Sean Baker has a knack for this, but that's a movie that is centered on that character. I mean, it's the title of the film, Anora, Annie in the film. If you don't connect to her, you don't like the movie. You might even turn it off. But if you connect to what she's doing in the film, which obviously I did, it's a ride. It starts out as Pretty Woman, like I said, or Cinderella, or whatever you want to put in there, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And it turns into just this anxiety-filled, like high stress, like almost like chase movie.
Oh, wow.
It's a ride, man. It's one of the more enjoyable films from start to finish for me for the past year.
Yeah, I got to check that out. I've heard good things. Yeah, again, back to, so you have Carlos Sofia Gascon, right? Huge nomination, but back to how uneven that movie is. Like, there's like a shootout in this movie, and it's like a gang shootout. I'm like, this is the same movie I was watching with the songs earlier.
It's too much. It really is all over the place.
So they don't give it to Carlos Sofia Gascon. Cynthia Erivo.
I don't think so. I think, Emilia Perez, I think, is going to get some stuff.
Yeah.
It might actually end up getting Best Picture, which kind of makes me angry.
Out of 13, you think it's going to take home a couple.
I know 13 nominations is hard to kind of look past, but I don't think for actress, I think Demi Moore is too strong. And even if she founders a little bit in the next few weeks, I mean, you got Mikey Madison and Fernanda Torres right there. Yeah. And also Wicked is highly regarded.
Yeah.
So
Demi had that good speech at the Golden Globes where she's like,
she did.
I'm a popcorn actress or whatever. And whatever that means. But okay. Actor in a leading role. Your nominations are Adrian Brody, The Brutalist, Tim Chalamet, Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice.
I got the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, you're going to give it to Sebastian playing Donald Trump. You know what's funny? This is a movie about Donald Trump, and you think he'd be out there going, best movie ever. Should win every award. Tells you a lot that I don't think he likes this movie.
No, it's an anti-Trump film. It's a great film. It really, and I'm really, really honestly proud of the Academy that they gave him the nomination for this. I think the international side of the Academy members really kind of made that happen.
Yeah.
I don't think Americans would lean heavily into The Apprentice, especially right now. But what are we going to do? I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You guys were asking. I think Tony was asking earlier about big like snubs or surprises on Oscar morning. Yes. One of the big ones was in this category because myself included, a lot of people had Daniel Craig predicted to be in this 5 really all season. For a movie called Queer, which was directed by Luca Guadagnino. You guys might know from Challengers last year.
Yeah.
But he didn't make it. Sebastian Stan got in for The Apprentice, and that was kind of a late surge for him and Jeremy Strong. But Daniel Craig was probably, along with Edward Berger, who's the director of Conclave, that's probably the biggest snub from the morning was Daniel Craig.
No challengers. Is that a snub? Do they just not like Luca right now?
You know what? It's hard to call it a snub because the Oscars do not like that kind of shit. That's why I'm so shocked by the love for The Substance.
Yeah.
And it is kind of the outlier this year. Everything else is kind of somewhat in line to what they usually do, honestly. But Challenger should have gotten in for original score. Resner Ross. I mean,
the music was fantastic.
It was undeniable. Same thing when you talk about like editing and stuff like that. But
the end was weird. I didn't know what to make of that.
It blanked. Yeah. But I think it is a snub if you're looking at the grand kind of picture, like what should be here, what shouldn't be here. Because then you have a movie like Wicked got in for original score, but it's using recycled numbers from the Broadway musical, which is not original. No. And then you have a movie like Challengers didn't get in, and Dune Part 2 wasn't eligible because Hans Zimmer used pieces of the... It's like a weird rule that I don't know how they decided what they decided. But yes, I think Challenger should at a minimum had been nominated for original score, and it wasn't.
You said that was Trent Reznor, right? Nine Inch Nails, Atticus Ross.
Yeah, Reznor Ross.
Yeah, those guys are great. Okay, so who's winning this one?
Oh God, you guys are going to have me on record on January 27th.
Yeah, I'm putting money on all this.
Yeah, this is for our betting listeners.
Gold Derby, and I'm putting my votes down.
Who are you putting money on?
I'm sticking with Timothée Chalamet.
Really?
I really am.
Over Brody. I heard Brody's going to get it.
I really am. Brody is phenomenal in The Brutal. I mean, he really is. I just can't get off of Timothée Chalamet and what he did for that role. I mean, he basically learned harmonica and guitar.
And singing. Yeah, he learned how to play guitar for this. And I saw him playing guitar on SNL. He knows.
He learned all that shit. And for 6 years, he did that to perfect it for the role. And a lot of that had to do with the strikes and COVID and whatever. But like, he continued to stay on. He knew he had the role. He continued to learn and get better and become more one with Dylan. And, Dylan applauded him on Twitter, which was like, I mean, Dylan never says shit to anybody. Wow. So, that was a win in itself. And, he was playing Dylan songs to his castmates on the Dune 2 set, in between takes and shit. Like, his dedication to it for such a long period of time. I think actors really respond to that shit. They're really going to be like, he did something that he didn't know how to do. Yeah. So that he could give us the best experience that we could get from this. And I think that's going to say a lot to them. And then you have somebody like Brody, who was great in the movie, but he's basically won for a very similar role, which also was kind of centered around the Holocaust.
Right.
In The Pianist. Yeah. So, I mean, he's already won an Oscar. So I think that might play into it as well. I'm going to say Timmy, but I'm going to say, which would also be my vote, but I think Adrian Brody and him, I'm not even joking, you could literally flip a coin, and that's who's going to win. I mean, it's a two-headed race.
So what about Ray Fiennes getting cheated again? This man is like one of our greatest veteran actors, has not won yet. He's been nominated several times.
It's funny that you mentioned that. And Tony will appreciate this from his short time studying the Oscars too, but what could happen this award season, this is like, honestly likely, not even like maybe, this is likely that this could happen. Adrian Brody could win Critics' Choice. Timothée Chalamet could win the SAG.
They all get one.
And Ray Fiennes could win BAFTA. So what you're going to have is you're going to have all three of the top three contenders each having that prestigious precursor leading into the Oscars. So therefore, that the preseason, if you will, is not going to tell us anything.
That's
so
the
then
best.
Which is great, honestly. And that's why I'm kind of sticking with Timmy, because he's my guy. So that's who I would vote for. That's who I'm predicting. Now, if Brody comes along, because he already won the Globe, if Brody comes along and wins the next three, then it's a no-brainer, really. I mean, it would be like a shock if Brody didn't win the Oscar after that.
So those three leading up, those haven't happened yet?
No.
Okay.
They haven't happened yet. First one would be the first weekend in February is the Critics' Choice Awards.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
We'll see. I mean, February is going to be a huge month to kind of put all this stuff into focus, because And a lot of people might be asking why, but the main reason why is because all these awards bodies share members. So,
okay, so they got to do them one at a time, kind of.
Yeah, they're casting ballots basically in 3 different organizations, and there's hundreds of members that cross over. So you got to think to yourself, oh, well, if Timothée Chalamet won here at the SAG, for example, then hundreds of those Screen Actors, voters are also voting in the Academy Awards. So you would think there would be crossover there as well.
All right, let's do director. Directing, Jacques Audiard. I don't know if I said that right. Jacques. That's what I feel like calling him. Yeah. Jacques Audiard, Emilia Perez, Sean Baker for Honora, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Coralie Fargia for The Substance, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown. We got one female. Rest dudes.
Yeah, thank God.
And where's my Denis Villeneuve for Dune 2? Come on, get the fuck out of here.
Big mistake, dude. Big mistake. I talked about that a lot on my reaction video. I mean, just an absolute. I got to be honest with you. I didn't predict it because I knew he was slipping off at the end of the award season, but an absolute travesty that this man did not get nominated for at least one of those Dune films.
I love Arrival.
Yeah, Arrival as well. Yeah, I mean the dude is so fucking good, man. That's such dense material that comes from those Frank Herbert books. Like to turn that into a moneymaker for Warner Brothers and to make such a palatable franchise out of, like I called it earlier, essentially an acid trip.
Yeah.
Is crazy, and it's like cinematic on another level, especially if you see it in like IMAX or whatever.
Well, for sure.
I just don't understand the omission, and I knew it was going to happen because he missed DGA.
He didn't win who won that?
He didn't get that. What hasn't been given out yet, but he didn't get nominated.
Holy shit! So Dune Part 2, 5 nominations this year.
Oh, man,
they get visual effects, cinematography, and some others. But I think they might take one of those.
I think they'll get a couple below the line categories for sure. Yeah.
So who will win? Who should win?
This is big.
For directing. Go ahead.
No, I said this is big. I'm pumping up your picks here.
I think Brady Corbet wins for The Brutalist for directing.
Okay.
He just won the Globe. He's a former actor, so he may get some actor votes there. I also think that The Brutalist was just such an undertaking on such a minuscule budget, and that's been highly publicized. I mean, it was like $10 million to make it, and if you see it, you're going to go, how is that fucking possible? Like, this looks like literally like an epic feat that would have cost $100 million at least. It's just such a grand movie on such a small budget, and they're going to really respond to that. He also used a lot of kind of archaic tactics in making the film that I think will speak to other filmmakers. Like he used VistaVision to film the movie, which is a technology that hasn't been used since like the 90s.
Oh shit! Wow. Okay.
And he kind of like resurrected it to shoot the movie on that to save some money, but also it's kind of a callback to old Hollywood, which they're going to eat that shit up. And I think he's going to win several awards leading up to the Oscars. He already won the Globe and had a great speech about recognizing filmmakers and letting these indie films get wide release and, et cetera. So all that stuff's going to play into his quote unquote campaign. And I think it's going to help him. If I was casting a vote, we already kind of talked about why, but I would vote for Coralie Fargia for The Substance.
Oh my God. I would be behind that. That is a singularly unique, great vision and amazingly directed. Yeah. Now, back to The Brutalist. You've probably also seen there's a little bit of AI controversy going on.
Yeah, I saw that
with The Brutalist. Anthony, have you heard about this?
I didn't even know The Brutalist was a movie until we started talking on this podcast.
Look, it's a movie about
I need my 2021 Tony back. This is crazy.
I'm a completely different man.
Roman Anthony. It's about a Hungarian architect. All right, so they used AI to do a couple of things, and the editor fully disclosed this. They used this app called Respeecher. I've heard of this, to smooth out the Hungarian accents in the Hungarian language dialogue editing only. They used it to refine certain vowels and letters for accuracy. He says no English language was changed. Their performances are completely their own. This was a manual process done by our sound team and Respeecher in post-production. The other thing they did was they used generative AI to create some architectural blueprints for like a background or whatever. They said they didn't use AI to render any buildings. They were all images were hand drawn by artists, and they use AI. And I've used AI at work, so I do understand where you can generate some stuff and you're going to manipulate it. You're going to work it in. You're going to change it, use pieces of it. Do you think, first of all, is this a big deal? Second of all, does this hurt this movie's chances at winning any of these?
Okay, first of all, yes, I think there's a outside possibility that it could hurt its chances, particularly for like Adrian Brody. I don't think it will make a large enough of an impact to where it would affect the outcome. I think you might be talking of a handful of voters that might be like, I'm not going to vote for it because of X, Y, Z. My take on this story, after learning a little bit more about it and hearing some other people's takes on it and hearing some interviews with people actually on the production team for The Brutalist, I don't think it's a big deal. My general kind of like approach to AI in the last couple of years is keep it out of Hollywood. And that was one of the big reasons the strikes existed to begin with.
Right.
They didn't want to take jobs away from actors and other people working on productions, et cetera. And so those, clauses are in there for a reason to, keep the people on the production safe. When it comes to this particular use of Respeecher, which, by the way, is a Ukrainian business, which I think is great that they were still getting work or whatever. But, they just used it to kind of like round out the end of sentences, is my understanding, because the guy that works in the post-production team is Hungarian. And it was what Brody and Felicity Jones did was great from, working with their Hungarian coach. But if you're a native to that country, you can spot somebody that's not native Hungarian, basically, like they learned it after the fact or whatever. And that's what it sounded like, because that's what happened. So the AI was used to kind of round out the syllables or the vowels in some of those words. And to me, that has nothing to do with Brody's performance. Frankly, that has nothing to do with the overall production of the film. And if they had left that in there, we're not going to, I wouldn't, I'm not going to know. Nobody what I mean?
Nobody would have known.
I mean, maybe some random dude in Hungary may have realized it, but I think it plays to the narrative of the level of authenticity that Brady Corbet and the crew were going for with The Brutalist.
Sure, yeah.
And because of how minuscule of a factor it was, because also this is only a total of like 2.5 minutes in a 3.5 hour movie that this AI was employed, is when they're reading, how they'll do voiceover work where they're reading letters or whatever. That's when it was used. So I just don't think it's, now if it was the whole movie and Adrian Brody's character only speaks in Hungarian the whole movie, and then you alter 3 hours of dialogue, then maybe you have an argument. But for the minor changes that were made here, I don't see it as affecting the movie in a negative way as a production. And the same thing with the generative AI for the architectural drawings, because there's a very small scene at the very end of the film that shows some of his works at this like museum. And that's what they're talking about. But what I read further on that too, and the generative AI created the images, and then they had their actual
artists,
post-production artists redo them or whatever. And that's what's used in the movie. So they kind of used them as inspiration, if you will. But I don't like AI in films, but at the same time, when I learned more about this story, that's not really what this is to me, because nobody lost their job. Nobody's performance was really edited in any way. So it doesn't bother me. And that's from somebody that's not really into AI when it comes to movies.
So look, no, as a creative, I totally get, the fear of the AI, but
me too.
Fact of the matter is, it's not going anywhere. It is, the jobs aren't going anywhere, but the jobs where you know how to use it there's going to be more of those, right? After reading what they did with this, it does seem like minor tweaks. And also, you're making this movie for under $10 million. If you have tools that can speed up the process just that much, where you can generate something to start with and then work over it, that's going to help the bottom line. It's not whole scenes, right? But it's a tool. It's not going away, and they put in things in after the strike to prevent abuse of it, but it is gonna have to be worked in, and I use it at work for certain things, and it just helps.
You're a traitor to your own kind.
I'm not a traitor because you got to know what you're doing, and then I always manipulate it, but it's just a little quicker to get to where you want to go. Anthony, any comment on this? Does this seem like a big deal, or do you even care?
No, it doesn't seem like a big deal.
I mean, we know. I mean, you guys know MCU, DC. I mean, how much AI is in that shit?
Well,
you know what I mean? And,
CG stuff, and
I mean, it's like, and we're talking about Amelia Perez a minute ago, and you have an accent in that movie, not to be funny, but like Selena Gomez, let's put some AI on that shit. It sounded horrible.
Yeah, you could have tried fixing that. Maybe.
You know what I mean, tweak that a little bit.
Jeez. So I was following the story, and then when I read about what it was, I was like, it's interesting. It is minor tweaks, but it may affect some people's outcomes. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think like I said, I think it's going to be, a handful of people that are going to just know the story exists and not vote for him because of that reason. But I think anybody that, really dives into the story and realizes how minuscule it was, and his performance is mammoth in that film. Like, it is a really, really good performance in a 3.5 hour movie. And we're talking about the reading of a letter over like 30 seconds, I don't think it should take away from his performance.
All right. Let's see. I think, will we get your best picture? Let's do best picture real quick.
We did not do best picture real quick. This is the grand finale.
This is the big finale. Again, the movies: Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Anthony's going with Amelia Perez, which, all joking aside, Anthony, I think could happen. Gerald, right?
Anything could happen, especially this year. There's a few films in the mix that are well loved, but not like, oh my God, this is the greatest movie of the year, and I think that's the case with a lot of these. I just recorded my initial predictions, or what I'm calling my best picture power rankings today. I haven't put it out yet. And I'm sad to say that Amelia Perez is number one on my power rankings right now.
Shit.
Wow. Now, obviously, that's going, or at least I should say, hopefully, that's going to change throughout the season if other movies begin to be awarded, etc., from different awards bodies leading up to the Oscars while that voting window is still open. But 13 nominations is hard to look away from. Also, I don't have it in front of me, but I think of the last 30 years, 28 out of 30 years or something like that. It's something crazy that if you're nominated for editing, screenplay, and director, you win Best Picture.
You win Best Picture, and they have all those nominations, don't they?
Well, hold on. This is what makes it exciting. So Amelia Perez has all of those. The Brutalist has all of those, and Anora has 2 of those. So right now, Amelia Perez and The Brutalist are my top 2 because of that stat.
Yeah.
But I do see a path for Anora, but it's not as
could be harder.
It's got a little more bumps on it. It has to win both because Sean Baker's nominated for screenplay and they're nominated for editing. Now, when you guys are watching the Oscars, if you're going to watch, Tony, and you're watching the Oscars, if you hear them call best editing, which will be early in the broadcast, and Anora wins that, perk up.
Oh,
okay. Perk up. Pay attention.
Could be an upset.
Because if Anora wins best editing, then Sean Baker, who, by the way, was the editor on that film, he edited his own film.
Oh. There's
a high likelihood he's going to get best director, and then you'll see that the stat lives on because that means Anora is going to win best picture. But right now, I think Amelia Perez has the clearest path to it, which makes me sad because of the 10 movies, it's the only one I didn't like.
Yeah, apparently people I've seen other reviews say.
What would be your pick then? Your personal pick.
Yeah, if you had to cast your vote.
I mean, my favorite movie of the bunch is not going to win is Dune Part 2. I mean, that's my favorite movie of the 10. Followed by Anora. I mean, those are my 2 favorites.
Why does a movie like Dune Part 2 not have a chance to win?
I mean, if you're talking about numbers, it's because of some of the stats I just talked about. Right. But I think another huge thing that it suffers from, first of all, it didn't get Best Director. If Denis was nominated for Best Director, this would be a whole different mentality.
Yeah.
It does deserve to be nominated, and frankly, it deserves to win. I mean, I'm not even kidding. That's the best picture of the ones listed, honestly, if you're talking about everything that goes into making a movie. But I think one of the huge things that it's going to suffer from in the voting from the Academy is that this is the middle film in essentially a trilogy. and they know that Dune Messiah is coming in a couple years, it's like a Lord of the Rings thing, right? They didn't nominate, they didn't award it until the final film.
Same with like Wicked. There's a second Wicked coming out.
I know. Yeah. So I think that's another reason why Wicked may underperform too, is that plays into their mind. Whereas for me, yeah, it's a part 2, but goddamn, look at that thing. Like, of course that's your movie. You know what I mean? Like, but they don't think that way. These other factors kind of creep into their mind when they're casting their vote. And, Denis is going to be making movies for a long time, and he's going to be doing another Dune. And, it's like the Leonardo DiCaprio thing. They're going to keep passing him over until they're like, oh shit, we got to give him something, So
I've heard that Dune Messiah story, the book is really weird, and the kind of story kind of just doesn't get better after the first 2. So he's really going to have to change.
That's what I'm saying. It really worries me.
Make his own shit. But,
Wicked suffers from a similar disease there, because they also, part 2 of that musical is very like not fun, like for lack of a better way to put it. Like, it's a very dark chapter in the musical, like the last hour of the musical after the intermission, which here I guess is going to be fucking 3 hours. I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
But in other words, it's going to be tough for them to really have the same energy that they have this award season. So if it doesn't win stuff this year, I think it'll probably still land some nominations next year, but I definitely don't think that's going to be the movie they're going to go, oh, okay, this is the feel good winner, which they could say that this year and it would make sense.
The other storyline I've noticed is Netflix has been trying hard to get that Best Picture win. And this could be the year. It'd be wild if Amelia Perez wins with Netflix.
This could be it, but I want to ask y'all's opinion too, because one of the things I mentioned on my video, which is there are very few negatives right now for Amelia Perez, like in terms of like what you look at for the resume. But I think honestly, Netflix being the backer is a negative, and I'm not even kidding, because you look at movies like Roma,
right?
What was the other one from Scorsese? The Irishman.
Yeah, Irishman.
Mank.
Yeah.
These are all movies that had multiple nominations that not only lost Best Picture, some of them blanked. Like The Irishman got 10 and won nothing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think Roma had a couple below the line, but it lost Best Picture, and a lot of people thought that was the winner. So you wonder if these old school Hollywood Academy members see the Netflix and they go, Netflix, that's not a movie. It was only out in theaters for a week or whatever, But
they have the most nominations out of any studio.
So that could actually hurt Amelia Perez. That could be a negative factor where people just don't vote for it because it's a Netflix.
That's interesting.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that hurts it, or am I crazy?
I think if I could put on my Anthony Palanthony hat.
Here we go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that hurt it more in the past. I think we're seeing the wave of change with streamers and all that. I think it's just a matter of time before Netflix film gets it. I think, especially with the way they've expanded the voting. I hope it's not this year, right? Yeah. With the way they've expanded the voting and all that, I don't think we're getting the same stuffy old people doing the voting all the time.
I even heard rumors that this whole brutalist AI controversy possibly pushed by Netflix. It's conspiracy.
Oh, wow.
To kind of help them, because they're badly want a fucking Best Picture. And they, like you said, they've been up many times and just gotten blanked or lost. So, I mean, I kind of agree with Anthony. I think it's inevitable because they just keep going and they keep trying and they have lots of money because they raise their fucking rates again. Have you seen what it costs now? Fucking top tier Netflix subscription where you can do 4 screens, 4K, $25 a fucking month. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, it's I think to Tony's point, it's going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen. I just don't know if a movie as divisive,
it's very divisive,
it has such a large gap between the industry, which would be, like the Academy, and regular people like us. It's just such a huge divide that if that movie wins, it would essentially be a win for Hollywood, a win for the industry, not for the people that are lifting up the industry. So it would be it would be seen as a very poor Best Picture winner and I'm putting that nicely. It would be up there with your Green Books and your Crashes, some of the worst Best Picture wins, in my opinion. So I hope it doesn't happen.
I would love for The Substance to win, but I think
if it's not Amelia Perez, let me put it this way. If it's not Amelia Perez or The Brutalist, if it's not one of those two, I'm going to be surprised on Oscars night. I think it's unless something crazy happens in the next 3 weeks, I think it's got to be one of those two movies based on everything we've seen so far.
How do you feel overall? All these picks, I feel like this year it's wide fucking open in all these categories.
Seems like it.
Unlike last year where it was just Oppenheimer.
Yeah, exactly. And that does make it exciting. I mean, I didn't realize this until I was recording my initial predictions. I talked to you guys a minute ago, but I didn't realize this, but let me count 1, 2, 4 of my movies that I had in my top 12 this year. And like I said, I saw 150 movies. 4 of the ones were in my top 12 are in Best Picture.
Whoa.
So, and that would be Anora, Dune Part 2, I'm Still Here, and The Substance. I had all those movies in my top 12. I'm Still Here was my number 12, and the other 3 were in my top 6.
I mean, yeah.
For me personally, I think it's a great group if you take Emilia Perez out.
I mean, yeah, they're all very different kind of movies, though, right? You got 2 musicals, you got a horror movie, you got some just straight up dramas.
Honestly, if it was this lineup with
3 musicals,
Nosferatu in place of Emilia Perez, it would have been the most brilliant top 10. I would still be awake from the nomination announcement. I would have been able to sleep for the last 4 days. It would have been so amazing. Emilia Perez really kind of fucked this lineup for me personally, but overall it was a good year and we have a nice mix. And to your point, Imran, I'm saying Emilia Perez, but honestly, I have no fight. I have no idea. The Academy has surprised us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it will be fun to watch. Any other categories or things you wanted to bring up, surprises or snubs that worth mentioning?
Not really. I mean, everything was fairly as expected with a couple minor surprises here and there. I love that Alien Romulus got a nomination.
Oh, can we just talk about the visual effects category, which is a category I love and pay attention to. Anthony, you're going to like this. For best visual effects this year. Alien Romulus, Better Man, which
Never heard of it.
Okay, that's the movie about Robin Williams where he's played by a CG
He's
monkey.
dead.
No,
Robbie Williams,
the
pop star,
not Robin.
Yeah.
Robbie Williams, the guy's huge everywhere but America. He makes a biopic, but decides to have a CGI monkey play him in the lead. Okay, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked.
Movie.
So you have 2 ape movies in this, and the tech for the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie gets better and better every time they make a movie.
You really have 3 CGI monkeys in this category because you have the flying monkeys and Wicked.
Oh, there you go. More CGI. A lot of CGI monkeys. I also think it's crazy Alien Romulus got a nomination just because of that the Ash Rook deep fake debacle, which they said they've cleaned up for the home release, but I've heard it's not really that much better. And so that one, I was like, really? Alien Romulus? I guess, I don't know. Does it deserve to be there, Gerald?
I think that's the only standout scene. I think that Alien Romulus, honestly, because it was in the mix for sound and it was also in the mix for production design. And honestly, I think production design was its strongest component.
Sure.
I mean, Fede Alvarez rebuilt those sets to match the Ridley Scott film. I mean,
it looked great.
Technology wasn't around in 1979. He just built those sets to look like the ships from the original films, and it was phenomenal. The other thing I want to shout out before we wrap up too is Nosferatu, which was my number 1 movie of the year last year, and is also a horror movie, by the way, received 4 nominations, which is pretty huge.
Yeah, wow.
Cinematography and makeup, which you'll understand when you see Bill Skarsgård in that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is a landmark year, I think. Now, of course, the Academy could prove me wrong in coming years if they don't stick with it. But I think this is a landmark year for genre films to get into this kind of prestigious layer, ring of the Academy. And I think that this was a huge benchmark for that with The Substance, Nosferatu, and movies like Alien Romulus getting in there.
Wicked.
You can tell that these international voters or younger voters or a mix of both are into stuff that's not shit my great grandpa's watching on Sunday afternoon. Do you know what I mean? We got some different stuff here.
Yeah.
And I think it's really exciting, and it makes for kind of an unpredictable outcome, which I like.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd see more of this after last year's, with the Barbie and the Oppenheimer, and possibly this is a good trend because yes, you have big budget crowd pleasers like Wicked, Dune Part 2, and then you got small independent films, quite a range. Anthony, do you like that they're putting in more of these, or is it a nice mix of like mainstream stuff, but there's a lot of stuff nobody's heard of or watched still
in the Oscars in general?
Yeah, and Best Picture specifically.
Best Picture. The list looks like the list that I would expect.
Yeah,
a lot of movies that no one's heard of. I do appreciate the fact that you've got your Dune, your Wicked, which are big mainstream blockbusters, and I'm happy to hear that The Substance is more of a horror flick. So I'm hoping this trend, like for a few years now, they've been incorporating big blockbuster movies in here. Like they've been peppering these in, but I would like to see them continue to get out of the typical Oscar films, whether that be a period piece or biopic or drama, and get these other movies in there. The next step is obviously seeing one of these win too. So,
right.
Can I ask you guys a question? Because I can't remember if we talked about this on our previous Jock and Nerd, but how did you guys feel? I'm just curious if you can remember this off the top of your head. How did you guys feel when a movie like Black Panther was getting multiple Academy Award nominations as fans of the genre? Yeah. Like, was that like a moment for you guys as fans? Like, oh my God, like superhero finally.
It was pretty big.
I thought it was huge. Yeah, I appreciated that. I don't know if Black Panther would have been my Oscar nominee from the MCU. That's a good question to think about. But I'm happy that it got there.
Yeah, and Angela Bassett was thought to be the front runner for supporting actress that year for a long time.
I remember that.
I just wonder, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this either, but I mean, The Dark Knight from the aforementioned Christopher Nolan, of course, is really the reason why we're 10 nominees now.
It was that year.
Yeah, that was the kind of uproar of these like blockbuster movies not having room to fit into these, the recognizable nominees, and they expanded to, I think it was 8 initially.
Right. And
they've been at 10 for like the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's when it started. Was Dark Knight.
Yeah, that all started because of the Dark Knight.
And obviously you had the Heath Ledger's passing, and almost like you had to do something. Yeah. But
I'm glad they did, because it does let in stuff that, if they were only 5 nominees, I can tell you right now, like Dune Part 2 wouldn't be here.
Right.
Which would be a shame.
Substance would not be there, probably.
You definitely would not have a Substance.
Wicked probably wouldn't be there.
Wicked might squeak into that 5th spot, but even that would be tough. I'm glad we have it, because, before that, which was 2008, right? So before that, it was essentially a drama fest. There was no comedies, there were no horrors. Yeah. You can pick out like your Silence of the Lambs and your like one-offs, but generally speaking, it was all like indie dramas, which I love that shit, but I also love other stuff. That's
what I was going to say. Look, I love the genre. I love our genre movies that we talk about, but occasionally I love the smell your fart acting you find in real movies.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you can't appreciate both. And this is the time of year to indulge in the film snob inside you, because it's fun. Excellent breakdown, Gerald. Thank you so much. The 97th Academy Awards, of course, will be hosted by Conan O'Brien. That's going to be,
which is great, by the way. That's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
I love Conan.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
He will kill it Sunday.
So good.
Sunday, March 2nd. And we'll see how these other races play out until then. But that was fun. Let's finish up with some What Are We Watching? I've mentioned a bunch of stuff I was watching. Gerald, turn us on to something you watched recently that you like that we should check out.
Man, I've been doing all this Oscar coverage. It's been tough, to be honest with you. But I went last week to see the new Wolfman.
How was that?
I'm very interested.
You know what? It's been getting really mixed reviews. And when I went to see it, I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. Lee Winnell is the director, and he did The Invisible Man a few years ago, which
it's a great movie.
This is his second time kind of diving into those old Universal monster movies and reimagining them, if you will. And I thought it was good. The creature design of the actual werewolf, which has also been a huge backlash online, like we were talking about Superman earlier.
Yeah.
I wasn't like pissed off watching it, but I remember thinking, I don't know if I'm into this creature design. It doesn't really say Wolfman to me. But the movie and like the tense scenes and the acting and a lot of things that Winnell did in the film as a director, like I really enjoyed. So all in all, I think I gave it like a 7 out of 10, but it's a recommend for me. I would say check it out.
You get a good look at the Wolfman then in this.
You do. I don't know if I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it's not. If you know what a werewolf looks like, right?
Yeah.
Right. You know what a werewolf traditionally looks like in film. It's different. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. It doesn't look like what you're used to, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. You could respond to it, or you could be pissed off like some people online are. I'm not pissed off. I just said, oh, okay, that's different.
That's a choice.
Yeah, yeah.
This movie did not do well in the theaters. It was made for $25 million, only has made $27 million.
Yeah, I think the bad reviews hurt it. Yeah. And I, like I said, I don't really get it. I mean, I get not liking certain components of it, but it's an enjoyable movie. If you like creature features, it's an enjoyable film. That's my take.
It's also funny. Robert Eggers just announced, he's like, fuck this, I'm doing a werewolf movie. And
I saw that.
It's called Werewolf. So it's going to be like in black and white and weird, and they're going to speak like old Aramaic or some shit.
I was going to say the werewolf will be speaking Latin.
Yeah,
and shit.
It's going to be some weird fucking movie. But he's like, I'm going to do werewolf. So he goes from Dracula to a werewolf. It's fun.
I can't wait.
The guy's crazy. All right, that's a solid recommend. Anthony, you watch anything?
A lot of football, but nothing you worth mentioning.
How about that Super Bowl lineup, huh? Do you care about that or not?
The Chiefs and the Eagles?
Yeah.
I mean, I always am going to care about the Super Bowl, but if there was a matchup that I could be like, man, I really don't care.
This is it?
It's the Chiefs and the Eagles. I don't.
Yeah, I did not want that either.
The Chiefs and the Eagles.
I did not want that. I mean, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, so I'm way off from having a rooting interest, but I got to be honest with you. I like Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, again, we're doing this. Like,
I mean, we had this matchup 2 years ago. At this point, it's like, I would normally root for whoever's playing the Chiefs just to get a new Super Bowl winner, but it's like the Eagles. I don't even care about the Eagles. So
yeah,
I'm kind of rooting for the Chiefs just to make history, but I don't really care.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like I said, I like Mahomes. Otherwise, I don't really care either. But I was kind of hoping Josh Allen could get over the hump, man.
That's me too. I thought he was going to get over the hump.
I mean, that's Haley Steinfeld's fiance, man. We got to get her. We got to get him in. Yeah. So I was bummed about. I'm not really thrilled about the matchup either, but what are you going to do?
Who's that? Who's doing the halftime? Do we know?
Oh,
they announce it. I feel like they did announce it.
Halftime show Super Bowl 2025. Who is it? It is. Give me 1 second. This is why we record these live, because we gotta make sure. Wait, what? We're not doing them live. Yeah. Kendrick Lamar.
Oh. All right. All right.
I thought you were going to say a hologram of Barbara Streisand. I was like, let's do it.
That would have been great.
Share.
Somehow. Look, I bought.
What?
I'm watching for the teasers. There should be some more teasers from Marvel, maybe from Superman and Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. What are the Super Bowl movie commercials?
There's going to be like a Thunderbolts thing, and they
you got. Looked it up?
I haven't, but Marvel needs to drop that Fantastic Four trailer during the Super Bowl. Come on.
That'd be cool, or at least like a little teaser.
Something. We got nothing, and it's coming out soon.
You know what's kind of fucked up about all that too is I can remember, and I know you can too, Imran. I can remember a time with the Super Bowl commercials, like you had to watch them during the Super Bowl. Yeah. You literally never fucking saw them.
Yeah, you have to be there live to catch it. And talk
now
about
you can like watch them on YouTube like a week before the Super Bowl. It's like, what?
You could only watch Janet Jackson's malfunction happen once. Maybe that was during whatever. But I bought my Super Bowl squares at work, so I'm invested. Go sports.
There you go.
Yay, sports ball, as Imran would say.
The other thing I'll mention real quick that I watched is no
one wants to hear what you watch. Okay,
that movie Saturday Night is now on Netflix.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right? I liked it.
It was very good. I'm a huge SNL fan, and they're having a fantastic year this year with their 50th fucking season, which is wild. The movie is fun. It's the 90 minutes leading up to the first live show. I don't know how much of that shit is real, but some of that shit is crazy. Spoilers, Milton Berle whips his dick out. I don't know what's going on.
Played by J.K. Simmons.
In front of Chevy Chase.
And that was good, man.
That was crazy.
That's Jason Reitman. That's the director of Juno and Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Did you hear this other story? Chevy Chase is such an asshole. He saw this movie and he goes up to Jason Reitman. What does he say? He goes, well, you should be really embarrassed. And he walks away. That's all he said. I was like, you're such a dick, Chevy.
So all he did was solidify what Reitman was basically saying about him in the depiction. So,
that's why he didn't like it. Because I mean, from Community, everything he's done, I know that this man is a problem to work with. He's fucking funny.
Exactly.
But he's a fucking asshole. But really fun movie. It's a great compliment to what SNL is putting out now. They have a SNL 50 documentary series on Peacock. It's fantastic. They have one whole episode just on the cowbell sketch. And then,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And then just today on NBC, they aired a 3-hour special on the music of SNL's 50 years. Not only the musical performances, but the sketches, the songs that got viral. And then in February, there is a SNL 50 special on a Sunday. It's not even going to be on a Saturday. It's kind of funny.
Wow.
But I would recommend Saturday Night. I would recommend The Substance of Real Pain. Great movies.
Yeah, for sure. What are you going to check out, Tony, after hearing all this stuff?
Yeah, you going to watch anything?
Actually, I should ask you, which of the Oscar 10 that you haven't seen is at the top of your list now?
Based on what you guys have said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me look at the list again. I mean, The Substance kind of intrigues me. I'm not really into body horror, but the fact that you guys really hype that up.
Yeah, I think
also the one about I don't remember the name. I think it's The Brutalist, about the Nazi guy or something. The Holocaust survivor making a life for himself.
Close. I mean, there's no Nazis in that movie, but there's reference to them, I guess.
The
but
Brutalist.
Yes,
The Brutalist.
The Brutalist.
That sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
It's
long. It's 3.5 hours. It actually has a built-in intermission to it.
3.5 hours.
Jesus Christ. There's an intermission.
Jesus Christ. That would take me 7 hours to watch.
Yeah. Yep. When I saw that in the theater, there's literally a 15-minute intermission where this
that's crazy
title card comes up on the screen and with the countdown clock.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I used to be in. I mean, maybe one day Anthony Palanthony will come back.
Let's do it, man. I'm ready. You're welcome over to the P's anytime. I don't have anybody to talk to about this stuff because my co-host doesn't care about the Oscars either. So
where are you located?
Yeah, Gerald, give out your plugs. I want to know how the show's doing. Where can people find you and subscribe?
Yeah. We're doing obviously, I'm doing all kinds of award season stuff. That's basically going to be the coverage till March, but cover movies all year. Just find me on YouTube would be preferable, but it's just youtube.com/2Ps on a pod. It's TWO spelled out. And we also do our audio podcast that comes out every Wednesday. And that's also just 2Ps on a podcast. Me and my buddy Nick, we usually cover, whatever current release is out that week that we want to talk about, or we pitch older movies to each other and we cover that. But a lot of YouTube content going up right now. If you guys are interested in any of this Oscar discussion or the race, I'll be doing all kinds of predictions, reactions, rankings, all kinds of stuff. So
I will put links.
Check me out over there.
Yeah, I'll put links in the episode description. Definitely, your YouTube channel is great, bro. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks, man.
Anthony, he just put out a video. What if the Oscars only picked horror movies and did all the categories? Great idea.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun idea for a video. Really fun video. So everyone go over there, subscribe if you like.
When does this come out? When does this episode come out, Imran?
This will come out this Wednesday, January 29th.
So when it comes out, or when you're hearing this, listener, my initial Best Picture rankings will be on the YouTube channel. And that's where I just give you my personal rankings, 10-1 of everything that got nominated. So
nice. That's also the day the Spider-Man animated show launches on Disney Plus.
Well, that's more important. So
we're going to talk about
they can watch that first and then come up.
Talk about that next week. First 2 episodes, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. We're going to be watching. All right, man. Thank you so much, Gerald. It was a blast, and I'll try not to make it 3 years before we have you on again.
Yeah, please don't. And I'm sorry. Listeners are still hanging in. I'm sorry if I bored you guys. I get really animated and excited about this stuff every year. And
we need
that's
it.
why I didn't realize it had been 2 years since I came on to talk Oscars with you guys. But I'm here if you guys need me. But thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You know your shit, and I love the passion, and it's interesting storylines. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, man.
That's going to do it for this week. Check out the episode description, listener, for links on how to follow Gerald, how to follow us on social media, how to get in touch, how to support. Lots of fun stuff. Thank you for listening to the Jock and Nerd Podcast. My name is Imran.
And my name's Anthony.
He is the Jock.
He's the nerd.
We'll peep you next time.
This is going great.